Done.
Okay. I'll call the public hearing to order for land sale at Gage Avenue.
Public hearing tonight is to discuss a proposed offer from Nick Peach Companies, for the Outlaw A Nolta subdivision, number 2 edition. It is parcel 1747801000. This proposed, amount is for $10,200 for this parcel. It's also contingent on approval of a variance of a 10-foot setback for the back and a 25-foot setback from the front. And the side street, which would be Gage, would be vacated. So tonight we're hearing comment from the public, if there is any, in regards to this proposed land sale.
Which one is Gage?
The one that goes in front of
Here.
Lynn Holiday and next to the car wash.
Which one's that?
That's this little one right here.
It's just that one. So
Yeah.
he's proposing to do
So he's proposing to purchase this with the vacation of this, so then this would be divided. That half would go to that property and that half would go to that property, and then this would, then he would build on that.
And if any questions about that?
Yeah, you can go ahead and ask. That's what tonight's about. Yeah.
It's a long story.
Public hearing.
So when it's vacated, that means that, like, we've got a vacated alley behind my place.
Yep.
At some point, people on both sides could not vacate it. They could make an alley out of that if they wanted, or a back alley.
If you made it back in the alley, there would have to be a petition, just like, vacation of stuff. You all have to be in agreeance. All the property owners that have bought that property have to be in agreeance with that. This would be, if we vacated it, there wouldn't be a road going through ever. It would become private property.
Each half.
And I would like to take a look at that, because that comes out into our property.
Comes out into Jay's property.
Yeah. Does Jay know about this?
He'll find out about it when he gets a,
Letter in the
Letter in the
mail
mail about
after
vacation.
tonight.
And then what happens after that?
Then we go to another public hearing
Go to another public hearing.
yes, for the vacation.
for the vacation. Yep. That's why tonight is just a proposal from somebody that wants to purchase the land, but it's contingent on the setback variances and the street vacation.
So I think our hope was to approve the sale with the contingencies, but the contingencies would still all have to happen, so we kinda talked about this. It'd have to be a Board of Adjustments and Appeals meeting to discuss the variance, Board of Equalization and, or whatever that one's called.
Board of Adjustment
Adjustments and
and Appeals
Adjustment and Appeals, what's the other one?
and the planning commission.
Oh, Planning
Planning
Commission
Commission.
meeting beforehand to approve the variances, and then public hearing for the vacation after letters are sent. But the vacation realistically is
A done deal,
well,
like anything
no,
else here?
it's, the vacation is realistically a piece of property that isn't gonna be a street anymore according to everybody that's kind of made those decisions, so.
And who has made those decisions?
Well, Jay did when he said he didn't wanna annex in.
Well, that street would go up into his property. Wouldn't
Yeah,
you
keep
want
going.
it taken away?
I don't know, I'll have to check with him.
Yeah, that's why we have the next round, like, he'll get a letter and stuff like that, but that's what I'm,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know, I
just
just-
the very first part of the process of 4 parts.
But he was pretty clear that he didn't want a street going even adjacent to his property or into his property in the first place, so that's why the vacation.
Well,
Yeah.
we've always had trouble working with the city, there's nothing that we have ever gotten done with the city for anything, so this just kinda goes along with everything that happens with when we try to work with the city.
Well, I don't know if that's really a fair statement. I think we try to have a good working relationship with Jay in the beginning. We just didn't have the same goals we did.
And we've been trying to work with the city for like 50 years.
We,
How many years?
It's been a long time. And
the,
nothing has ever happened with the city that we could work with.
okay, well, I guess I haven't been here for that long.
No, you
but-
sure haven't.
But the property now is Lot A
Is deadlocked.
is deadlocked and
It's
is.
not deadlocked.
Mhm.
That's a key point. That's
Yeah.
a key point. It's not deadlocked.
Well, it's not deadlocked, you're gonna leave the street to the south.
Yeah. Well, it'd be actually be the east, wouldn't it?
No, the street to the east would be being vacated.
The street to the
south
east is being
in.
vacated.
Okay.
The street to the south
that
is
little
in.
Yeah.
portion.
Okay.
Yeah. So on tonight's public hearing is for the first part of multiple, and Jay will get the letter if
Yeah, everybody within 350 feet will be notified of the vacation.
so it'll be Jay, Total Lawn Care, the motel, Travis, and
Lee Cox,
Lee Cox.
us,
And all those letters
Adelia
will
Ford.
be mailed right away tomorrow morning. And the public hearing, they will be calling the public hearing tonight for July 11th.
Yes. Any other,
So if I could, just back it up a
Yep.
second. Kathy, to you specifically, you've said that you have worked with the city and it has
Well,
not
this has
worked well.
been the Knowlton Land thing, and way back when they died in the 70s, the city council actually had agreement for sale of land with the city.
So where did that go sideways?
And they backed off from that, and supposedly we heard one person backed away from it. And at that time, they came to us and whatever, said, if we talked to them about developing, they said, well, if you put these streets in, we'll work with you to put businesses out there. 20 years later, after they paid for all the assessments, then we could start selling the lots for less than what they were worth because we had all the assessments in there. And that was the start of
Okay.
all that out there.
so that was in the early 70s,
I think it was later 70s,
mid 70s?
mid-70s.
We go back there and drink beer, it was a gravel road, but it had a curb and gutter and
Mhm.
sewer and water.
And so for 20 years, they paid for all those assessments in there, and the city never helped them at all.
They, who they? The Noltas?
No, we're the Noltas.
Yeah, no, I know, but who paid for the assessments? I'm asking.
Noltas did.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. So they
Yes.
paid the assessments and the city said they were going to, and then
Help.
backed off of that.
Yep,
Okay.
well, Nolta Land Development, which was Irene and Ronnie and Wayne.
I can't change any of that either,
No, I know,
because that was way before.
but this is just one more,
Right.
okay, here we go again.
Well, I mean,
And that's what we're trying to avoid. What I want to understand, because I've only been back for 2 years,
Mhm.
is what happened in the past.
That's what happened in the past.
Okay.
That was put in and paid for by Noltas, and the city at that point had said, oh yeah, you develop it, we'll help you put stuff in. Not one thing did they ever help us with. nor have they ever helped us with anything.
So maybe the bigger question on that, and it's not something that we necessarily have to get into in this meeting, is what is your goal for the property?
Probably sell it, but I think we're just looking at selling everything at once, we're not gonna sell it lots, you know.
Because when we did the preliminary studies with Bolton and Mink and with G, and kind of looked at the phased development,
Mhm.
the back half of the lot is basically unserviceable without a lift station for sewer and water.
Mhm.
And that's probably a multi-million-dollar investment for whoever the developer is.
Whoever.
Right, so with all that being said, I don't know if you're gonna start marketing it, if you're just gonna market the front, or if you're gonna market the back, or if you're not gonna market it at all, or the,
You know, for me, I can farm it, it's not
Sure.
a big hairy deal.
yeah, and this,
But everything that you do around it winds up at some point affecting, if I can get machinery in there, if we can farm it.
sure, right. How do you normally access that property now with equipment? Directly from, like, in front of the waste transfer station,
No, well, we
or from the
come-
back?
Well, we can come
office?
through the back, because behind the highway, we access it back there. In front, Urban's usually let us just access
Right
it right there.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if the sale of this property would change the access points or anything right now. And we don't have any other property that abuts it. It's all privately
Mhm.
owned, so.
Yeah.
The Leacox, I think there's been quite a few parties that approached them about purchasing that piece of land, and I don't think it's for sale. So I guess.
So I understand too.
It's for sale,
Well, if it is for sale, it's probably not for sale for a,
but it's not a affordable price.
for a price that anybody's willing to pay at this time, so, I think that, you know, for the purpose of this discussion, that piece of property to us as a city, as a municipal
Mhm.
entity, has no real value,
No. I
because
think,
all we're doing.
Sam might go down that road occasionally, but no.
Right, yeah, all we're doing is.
And he can access through Jay's stuff now, so if
Right.
you're taking that access point out, that is one less access point that we have, because
Right.
that does go to Jay's land.
All we're doing right now is mowing it, so that's kinda why we're looking at it as a resale, to get it on the tax roll and get it back, into something that's, holds some value to the community,
Plus it opens up another business in the city of Medina,
hopefully.
which,
But to be honest, what she just said opens up a bigger conversation of how things went sideways previously. So how do we fix that so that we can go forward?
I don't know if you can.
I don't have any answers either.
Okay?
Because all those assessments were picked up by the NOLTA,
Yeah.
you know, and the same
Those all
thing, if
paid.
you look south, where Schultz bought the, piece of property, that, property, the road that got put in never got transferred either. So back in the 70s, when Medelia was expanding, the paperwork and whatever happened. So about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, the lawyer wanted us to pay for the road that's been in for 40 years. And there was no paperwork drawn,
What room?
the one that goes straight down from the hospital. Drew Avenue. So, you know, and that
Okay,
was.
so I'm gonna ask a stupid question, because I'm the new guy, and I get to
Yep.
do this.
You're not the new guy for long.
I'm gonna keep using that until the next new guy gets elected. So something was done in the 70s that we didn't get right. Is there something we can fix now to make that right, so we can fix all of this?
Well, until Kathy brought up the reasoning.
I just want
I didn't have the background because I
See, but
never
that's it.
asked for, and I didn't have the background on the Schultz thing.
So
And-
neither did I, and that's why I'm asking, okay, so there's a whole lot of background. That, do we have to adjust fire to fix this going forward? And if there's something we as a council can do now to fix that, we should.
Well, I can't disagree, we should work on making things correct. But how do you know which one wasn't filed right unless you hire somebody to go and check all the subdevelopments that the city of Madelia has done since the sixties?
I think that kind of speaks to the Leacock property as well. I'm pretty sure that in conversations I've had with people close to them, that part of the reason they're not willing to sell is because they feel like they've got too much invested in that property.
Well, that's part two is they wanna sell it for a whole lot more than it's worth.
Right.
But
But-
you gotta think about the assessments. You know,
Yes.
we had a lot of money in those assessments.
Yes.
And that's the same thing that happens out on your development out there, or out at Dick Olson's, which, you know, by the
So-
time you pay the assessments,
Can
you
we go
can't
back in the
afford the
records?
lots.
Can we go back in the records and find out what promises were made on the assessments? And then apparently broken.
Well, I don't think there was anything
I don't
written
know
down,
if
it was
we-
just, you know, I mean, things were growing and they thought that it would, you know, and then you kinda hit the eighties, which, everything fell apart in the eighties.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so then businesses weren't being developed because I'm thinking, like Jim, it was 76,
But
77,
hang
and so
on.
And we
everything just fell apart
We
and
had
that's where it
inflation
went.
and high interest rates, kind of
This
like
isn't the
what-
Pentagon, so we don't have to
Yeah.
have things in writing.
What's coming.
Did we have gentlemen or gentleladies agreements that we could reach back to and at least talk about? And say, this is what was agreed to.
I am pulling, you know, I'm going through all the files down here, and I know that I do have a big pile of NOLTA stuff. I don't know what's all in there, Kathy. You know, if you come and look at all of our stuff, you have a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there. I don't know if I'm gonna compile what we're looking for. But what I
don't know either.
can I ask you this, do you
Mhm.
know what the whole, see, when we do assessments or whatever, so I come in and do a project, and that project is say $300,000. But there's only a fraction of it that's assessments. Do you feel that that whole project was, the whole thing was assessed?
It used to be done that way, that's why Leacox, I think you think they're asking more, I think everything was thrown on them. Like
Yeah.
those lots, that-
I think
Yes.
he had purchased it for 40 or
Yeah.
50, and then he wants another 60 in assessments.
well, I think he had 40 or 50, because those lots of Culligan, we had 60 or 70,000, that's why you have a city shop where you have it now. Jim Jones bought those lots, think he could develop them, the assessments were so high, he just raised his
Yeah.
hand, said let it go back on property tax, because everything was thrown back on the property owner 20 years
Yeah.
ago. No one knew that it wasn't being done correctly.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's kind of what happened with the whole Dick
Yeah.
Olson thing, how they got out there, is they were, you know, she actually never came and talked to us. She just kept saying, that's just farmland, it shouldn't be that expensive. And what we would have said was, that's farmland with all your assessments paid. And it wasn't good enough. Well, she wound up going out there and basically lost everything because the assessments were too high.
Yeah, and truth be told, they're just finally paying them off.
I know,
Yeah.
I know, I
mean,
do know,
I think this is the last year that
Yeah.
it gets paid off.
yeah, so it's taken that long.
Yeah, well, it took 20 years, and they wound up they had to kick money in because
So-
the rent back then wasn't high enough to cover the assessments.
Mhm.
So all that land for 20 years, everything went to pay those street assessments.
I don't know if you as a council can make it right.
Yes, we can, as a council. Here's my problem, and this is what I struggle with. To get the Congressional Medal of Honor, which is the highest honor you can get in the military, as you know,
Yeah.
you need 2 witnesses. I don't care if it's in writing. I just wanna know 2 people that were in the room when that conversation was made, and then we adjust fire.
I think they're all dead.
I think they are,
That's
I
not.
know, that's the truth.
Wow.
I think they're,
yeah.
I think they're all dead because, you know, That would have been Alan's
But I mean, this thing was
uncles and
platted when my grandfather was still alive, and for the love of God, he died in 1982. I mean, this was all laid out, this was all gonna be
aunts.
done.
Yeah,
We were gonna roll this all out, and somehow we got sideways. I wanna get it back off sideways. I just don't know how we do that at this point.
I guess that really,
I don't know either, honestly. It's, there's so much water under the dam that it's like, but that's just why I'm asking is because this does, and the reason that we sold that pie shape again was to get out of the city limits because you guys were killing us with trying to put all this stuff in assessments. And so we came up with this stupid pie shape thing saying, okay, we have to get out of the city because we can't keep paying your assessments.
mhm.
That's why you got such a crazy little pie.
Because that made DG Department, it got off the tax rolls and
Yeah.
went back to
Yeah.
everything on the other side of that line became
Mhm.
agricultural
Yeah.
and it got assessed at a different rate.
At a different rate.
Well, and let's be clear as a council, we've got a land problem. We've got to expand out. We've got a place we could expand to. We've got a place we could expand to that's not the most productive farmland because it's land tied. So how do we fix this?
Yeah, but the other thing is you have to consider the fact that, say you did, say we bought the whole thing and, you know, paid asking price for it, to make the back half the not the front 12 lots, but the whole thing viable, you're gonna have 12, 14 million invested in it, and then you're gonna have to try to get somebody to buy it to recoup your money. It's just not
So-
feasible.
Well, it's feasible if somebody has a lot of money.
If a private, if a private developer wanted to do it, maybe, but even then, he'd have to have a plan for what was gonna be. It's not feasible at this price point. Not for a city entity. Or not for me in my vote, I guess. And that was part of the, you know, the issue.
Right.
Which is, I mean, it just kinda is what it is. I think there's,
Yeah, it just, to me,
there's
this.
a tipping point where it just becomes.
Yep, I get that totally. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I appreciate your input.
And you can't get a
To
business
me,
to build on
this
something
is
with
nuts
$1 million
for us to
for
not have the
assessment.
land between us and Highway 15.
No, I totally agree.
Or, and if they do build, then the city or the county ends up with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's tax forfeitures, they're getting $75,000 a lot in New Ulm. They still have a full subdivision that all went to tax forfeiture that we're trying to sell at 30 just because it just wasn't the place that everybody wanted to pay 75. You know, I mean, it's just, it kinda is what it is. You have to pick and choose your battles there.
So,
We got a little bit off of this.
Okay.
We did get off of that.
anyhow,
Sorry.
anything else on the public hearing and the land sale?
No, it was just open up for conversation, and then the next public hearing will be at July 11th. And the meeting, notices will go right, oh, I really can't talk tonight, I apologize. Meeting notices and meeting letters will go out in the mail right away tomorrow morning for that meeting.
Okay.
So,
And as far as the council, is that on my agenda for tonight, or?
we need to add it as an item, to call the planning commission, the public hearing, and the board of adjustments and appeals.
So we'll make that number 2. Okay. Is the Medelia,
We can adjourn the public hearing.
okay,
I'll make a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Second.
a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried.